Great. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Optimize the Booking Journey. Today's webinar is presented by Trust You, Rainmaker, and Fuel Travel, where we will be discussing how marketing and revenue management can work together to achieve your hotel's booking goals. So jumping right into it, we'll go through some of the points that we'll be learning in today's webinar. Some of the key takeaways. So in the webinar today, first, Trust You is going to show you how to improve online visibility and search rankings with review content in order to help drive direct bookings. We're also going to be presenting whether your direct marketing channel is helping or hurting you, and some takeaways and tips that you can implement in terms of your brand.com website. And then next we'll have Fuel Travel. They'll be presenting on marketing psychology principles that can nudge guests through the booking process. So how to provide, and also how to provide a frictionless booking experience. And then finally we'll have our speaker from Rainmaker talk about the involvement of revenue management should have with marketing and what resources revenue management can provide to help drive profitable strategies. So to introduce all of our speakers today, first of all, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Valerie Castillo, and I am the Senior Director of Marketing here at Trust You. We are the world's largest guest feedback platform, and personally, I have 7 years of marketing experience in the hospitality software industry, and I'm always seeking to help educate hotels on the importance of their online reputation in order to increase revenues and improve their hotel product. And then I'd like to introduce my fellow speaker, Misha Bikikio, and would like to have her go ahead and introduce herself.
Thanks, Valerie. As she said, my name is Misha Bokikio. It's a tricky one. I work at Fuel Travel. I've been here for almost 5 years, and we work primarily in the hospitality space. We do offer marketing services as well as software services just for hotels, and I'm really excited to be here.
Thanks so much, Misha. And then I'd like to also introduce our next speaker, Angie Dobney. She is the VP of Hospitality Solutions at Rainmaker. Angie, could you give us a quick intro?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the intro there. Everyone, I'm Angie Dobney. Like Valerie said, I'm the Vice President of Hospitality Solutions with Rainmaker. I've been with Rainmaker as an official employee for about 3 years now. I'm doing multiple things: account management, sales, especially consulting services. But the cool thing is that I'm actually a former customer, so I'm as well as a corporate director for multiple assets as well. So this topic is near and dear to my heart, because I've actually lived it, which has been great. If you don't know about Rainmaker, we are a revenue optimization platform provider where all things revenue management can be managed in our cloud. So I'm excited today to be part of this. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, ladies. And just a few housekeeping items before we get into the topics that we're laying out here today. If you do have any questions for any of the presenters at any time, please go ahead and add those into the questions box in the GoToWebinar control panel that you should have open as well. All attendees can go ahead and ask questions at any time, and then we will go ahead and address those after all three of the speakers have presented. So I'll go ahead and jump right into it. I'm going to start out by talking about guest feedback and the guest journey. So Trust You has done a significant amount of research about the guest journey, and what we have found is that the path is definitely not linear. Instead, it is part of a cycle that is continuous and influences future traveler decisions and experiences. The guest journey really starts before they even walk into your hotel. So the starting point for each guest occurs in what we like to call the search and booking phase here at the top that you see highlighted. And that's the phase that we're going to be talking about the most today. But to go through some of the other phases, once they do decide to book, they arrive at your hotel. beginning the next phase of the guest journey, which is the on-site experience. And then lastly, after the stay is over, the guests are sharing their feedback, whether on social media or with a completed guest survey that you sent them, or maybe they're posting their online review on many of the booking platforms that are out there that allow for this. And these reviews not only impact the hotel and inform the hotel themselves, but also influence the future guests searching for similar experiences. So that's really where the cycle begins, all from the very top in the guest journey, starting back with the search and booking phase. So most of the conversation, like I said, from my perspective, will be focused on that first stage, search and bookings, where your marketing efforts really will be the most important than ever in order to drive bookings. So to start with this conversation, we earlier this year, TrustU released a study on online booking behaviors, where we surveyed over 900 individuals who had traveled and booked online in the last year. And it may come as no surprise that Google was definitely the top source for travel inspiration, followed by the online booking engines and also Facebook. So as you can see, the travelers in many instances in our study were asked to pick more than one option, and about half noted one of these as the top 3 in their pick list. So these are definitely very important channels for a hotel to be considering when they're talking about optimizing a booking process and making sure that the most guests see them. So we know that Google is important, but just exactly how important that is also seen in some of the next research that we have to present. So of the 91% of travelers who use search engines when booking accommodations online or really starting their search, 81% prefer to use Google, and that's definitely a significant majority and not something that we can ignore as hoteliers. We also asked the same travelers to enter in the keywords that they were likely to have used the last time that they searched for accommodation. So really starting at point 1. So they've opened up their web browser, really where is the next place that they're going. So the word cloud that was created from this displayed the actual search terms that they used. And through careful analytics, we were able to determine that 57% of travelers searched for the word hotel, 49% for a specific location, and then just about a third searched using a combination of the hotel and location. So the search results that they're getting, of course, you can imagine, is not only leading back to your hotel, but also to some of the OTAs. So it's extremely important to make sure that you have an enhanced listing on Google, that you're making sure that you fall within that top section of Google, as we know that many travelers, anyone who searches on Google, that's really where they're focused and where they're going to be spending the most of their time. So how can we help hotels do that? By making sure that when someone is starting in Google and trying to find a hotel, how are they going to get back to your website? How are they going to find you specifically? So to go through that, I want to talk about kind of some of my first key takeaways when it comes to making sure that you're showing up high in search results. So that's enhancing your Google listing on Google Search and Maps. So the first takeaway that I have is implementing rich snippets. If this is the first time that you're hearing that phrase, it's something that we talk about a lot. But essentially, it's really these little stars next to the search rating here. They're extra pieces of content that bring more focus to the travelers to your hotel profile. Many of the online OTAs are also using these as well. So if your hotel doesn't have these rich snippets enabled and they can't see their score right away, that's kind of the easiest thing that may drive a traveler to search on the OTA instead of your own website. It also can help influence your search rankings by having review content on your website. This can have an impact on where you actually fall in line in a Google search, and making sure, again, that you're at that very top section. It's also very important for a hotel to monitor the reviews that you get. So obviously you want to make sure that you're getting the best reviews possible. That is going to achieve more click-throughs, again, to your hotel website or even to your hotel on any site, making sure that you have one of the top scores compared to some of the competitors in your area. And then finally, I want to encourage that hotels and accommodations stay on top of some of the Google search and maps trends that are coming out. You know, whether that's setting up a Google alert to see what's kind of new, but Google is always enhancing these listings, but not always automatically, and hotels are not always informed. So by making sure that you are proactively following these latest enhancements, or following companies like ours who are, you know, actually researching this for you, and making sure that you're getting that news from us, you're able to, you know, better take advantage of features that are coming out that maybe your competitors haven't discovered yet. So one of the next points that I promised that Trusty would talk about is the importance of your review content and how that's going to help your direct booking channel. So, you know, do you, as on your website, do you have all of the most important elements on your website to encourage a booking? Fuel Travel will definitely go into more depth on this topic, so I'll just review one of the most important components, which is the review content. So here's another piece of research that we've discovered, is that 95% of travelers read reviews before making a final booking decision. So therefore, we can definitely gather that guest feedback is impacting bookings, but just about how much. So let's look at the next slide. Across the industry, there are similar hotel profile attributes that enable a traveler to choose a hotel. When booking a hotel through an online aggregator, the most frequent attributes relate to a hotel's nightly room rate, their review score, and the hotel's industry star rating. Also very important is, of course, images of the hotel, the hotel name, and the brand. But referring back to the study that I mentioned before, to find out which variable had the most weight in the decision process, we asked travelers to rank the importance of their final booking decision. What were the most important factors? And we discovered that the top two have a correlated relationship. This holds true also in our previously released research on the subject, proving that travelers definitely are willing to spend more or pay a higher nightly rate for a hotel with a higher review score. So obviously that impacts your revenue managers. This is information that they need to know, and one of the key components of marketing and revenue management working together. So of this, again, this same sample, 33% would choose to see hotels with excellent review scores, 88% would choose to see hotels with very good review scores, and 96%, so really the vast majority of travelers, would sort out hotels without good review scores. So therefore, this high review score really will ensure that your hotel is not filtered out of these results and is seen by the most amount of potential guests. So again, how will this impact your bookings, and how will this impact your eventual revenue? So we have also been able to identify some even more concrete findings around booking decision factors in our past research. And in one of our studies, we found that travelers were 3.9 times more likely to book a hotel with a higher review score, even if they were given equal prices. So it's not always about price comparison. Aside from price and location, reviews are one of the top factors of a traveler's final booking decision. So to wrap up on all of this great research, what does this tell you about your hotel, and what can you do to emphasize that reviews drive bookings? When reviews are part of your own brand.com website, this improves direct bookings. So integrating a review widget on your hotel website is easy, and it's also impactful. It also builds trust with travelers who find your brand.com website and encourages them to make their final decision right then and there. They don't need to be comparing on all of these other OTAs or meta search sites. It's important to definitely put your best foot forward, of course, too. So take your most positive reviews, likely the ones that you are collecting yourself through your post-stay surveys. Those tend to be the most positive, and showcase those on your website. Make sure that that's not just informing your hotel, but again, future traveler booking decisions. These meaningful and verified reviews are the best way to build trust and impact those bookings. So I will go ahead and wrap things up from my side. I'm very excited to now hand this topic over to Misha with Fuel Travel to further discuss the hotel's website booking experience and other ways that you can encourage bookings and move to the next phase of the guest journey.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Valerie. That was definitely some great information on your end, and it ties directly into a lot of what I'm going to cover today. So on the marketing end, this topic is very important to me and very fascinating to me, which is how you can integrate marketing psychology messaging. The goal being to understand what drives consumers' decisions, and then also we'll give you some tips that will then help you optimize your hotel website to speak to those key decision-making factors. So I'm going to warn you, I do have a lot of information for a short amount of time. It's going to be a little bit like drinking from a fire hose, so please feel free to ask questions like Valerie said. I'm certainly happy to answer anything that you might have questions on or even connect afterwards. And just to give you a little bit of overview, what we're going to cover today is 5 simple concepts that you can employ through your hotel's booking process to help you positively influence those sales. And then we're also going to briefly discuss some ways that you can seamlessly integrate these concepts throughout your booking engine to create that frictionless booking experience. So we're going to go ahead and dive right in. The first concept that we're going to cover today is one that I feel that most people have probably at least heard of before, and that's social proof. And this is a really simple concept that basically just states that people view behavior as correct if they see other people doing it. So this taps into a lot of what Valerie had covered already on the powerful impact that having reviews on your own website can have. We have some examples here. I believe I pulled this from Marriott.com, and they're showcasing an overall review score in a really easy to understand way. And then they also have some messaging that speaks to how many other guests recommend that hotel, as well as enforcing how many confirmed guest reviews that they have on their site. So just some hotel messaging that you can integrate into your site and your booking experience, showing how many people are currently viewing a page. So in the example I've provided, 7 people are already looking at this page. Or you can perhaps try some messaging that reinforces how many people have already booked this room for a given time period. So whether it's 25 people have booked the room this week or this month or whatever it might be. That's another example of how you can use this. And then also having guest testimonials not only on your website as a whole, but also strategically placed, whether it's on the rooms pages or in different areas of your website. And we'll see some examples of how other sites are doing this as well. The next psychology hack that we're going to tap into is scarcity. Again, this is something that a lot of people are probably already familiar with, and this is a really basic economics principle, right? So we consider a resource to be more valuable when there are limited quantities. So you're also really tapping into people's FOMO, if you've heard that before, fear of missing out. So a way that you can integrate this into your booking process, again, to kind of instill a little bit of fear that they're going to miss out on something, is by displaying limited inventory messaging. So this was another screenshot that we pulled from Marriott. You can see that they have a little call out. This was on their overall hotel listing page that just speaks to, this hotel's filling up quickly, don't wait. Again, just giving them a little nudge to go ahead and take the next step. Or if you had a specific special that you were trying to push or a deal, you can let people know that, hey, this is a limited time offer. You only have 12 hours left or 3 days left or whatever it might be to go ahead and book this deal. Our third principle, it taps also into the scarcity. These tend to go hand in hand, and this is urgency. So you really want to let people know that this is a limited time offer and you have to address this now. This can be particularly a powerful motivator because it can suspend deliberate thought and cut through some of that cognitive friction. So again, you want to convey that you don't have time to think. You need to go ahead and act now. And this is something I'm sure we're all prepared to deal with within the next couple of weeks when you have Black Friday and Cyber Monday. This is something that the retail industry has done a really good job of prepping us for, and they've done a great job at conveying this sense of urgency. So from a hotel perspective, again, to tie this back to what you can do on your site, this is a screenshot. It happens to be from one of our client sites. And what they have is a countdown timer on the home page of their website that promotes a special that they want to push. This is a live countdown timer, so it actually works in real time, and you can see that it's very present in not only the desktop version of this, but the mobile version as well. And we've seen countdown timers work well not only on the website, but you could also integrate this within your booking engine. So if somebody moves from, looking at a rooms page, goes into the booking engine, rates only guaranteed for 5 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever it might be. Also something we've seen success in via email as well. And then some other examples, just popular travel dates. So if you're in a destination, let's say 4th of July weekend, Labor Day weekend, Memorial Day weekend, when you do tend to book out, go ahead and let people know that these are popular travel dates, there's a lot of people searching, or that these dates sold out last year, you should probably go ahead and book. Our next slide covers anchoring, which is actually a really interesting concept. To me personally, it speaks not just to how you are pricing your rooms and your packages, but how you're actually showcasing that pricing. So this topic relates to how shoppers tend to rely too heavily on the first piece of information they receive. So in this case, that's going to be your pricing. So this is a few screenshots that we took. This actually just happens to be our booking engine. And you can see that we are anchoring the price in several spots here. So the bottom picture is an availability calendar, and it showed what the price would have been, but then we're using the strike-through effect, and then we also, in our design of this, we're using the red to convey it's negative, you don't want to pay this price, and then we've got the green actual discounted pricing below. And then we're mirroring that when we have the final pricing showed that this could have been your total price, $1,200, but you're getting a 37% discount. So there's a lot that you can do throughout this to kind of tweak and experiment with whatever messaging works. Really, your goal with this is to present your rates in the absolute best light possible. So you can experiment with offering different packages. For example, maybe you have your standard rate, but then for $5 more, you can add breakfast daily. Using the strike-through method is really popular. We've seen a lot of booking engine solutions that offer that as well. And then also anchoring your prices and providing some context with that standard rate, which obviously you want to be higher than what your discounted rate is. And the final principle that we're going to cover briefly is a twofer: assurance and risk mitigation. So you want people to trust your brand, you want them to trust that they're making the right choice, and you want them to trust that they're getting the absolute best deal possible. So really, you want to make sure that your booking experience addresses any doubts that might exist in a shopper's mind. So strategically placing messaging throughout that experience to let them know, hey, we have free cancellation if that's something you offer, no deposit required if that's something you offer, free refunds, secure booking. This is something that we put messaging in our booking engine just to speak to that. Cybersecurity, obviously a big concern for a lot of people, so you don't want that to be something that might pop up in their mind. And then also, this could be an opportunity for you to upsell. If you happen to offer some type of travel insurance or a vacation protection plan, go ahead and let people know that we can cover this $1,200 trip or whatever it might be for you for the low cost of only $32 extra, just to, again, plant that seed that I can spend this little bit of extra money and not have to worry about it. So an interesting upsell opportunity here as well. So all of these hacks are great. There's tons of other information, resources, and things that you can try. We only wanted to cover 5 today. Those are all great, but they're essentially pointless if you're putting up roadblocks in your booking experience. So you really want to think about your booking experience to make it as seamless and frictionless as possible across all devices. And that last part is particularly important, and we're actually going to take a look at 2 important statistics to keep in mind during your evaluation. So 50%, what could that be? That is actually the percentage of revenue, not traffic, revenue, that some hotels are getting via mobile. I put the some hotels caveat in there. I definitely don't want to place that as the norm yet. We are seeing this, though, at least on our end with some of our clients, that more than half of their revenue is coming in via mobile. So we're kind of coining the phrase that we are approaching the second mobile tipping point. The original tipping point with traffic happened about 2.5 years ago. So now we're starting to see that as people become more comfortable purchasing via mobile, and as the technology is catching up to that to make it a little bit easier, you know, this is coming. We're going to reach the tipping point where more than 50% of your revenue is going to come via mobile, and that's going to be the standard. So this is something we're already seeing, and it's definitely something to go ahead and start preparing for. And 20%, this is actually a statistic that Hilton Hotels recently released that spoke to the percentage of bookings that is coming in via their mobile app. So notice we said mobile app, not the mobile-friendly version of their website. Apps are the new frontier. We here at Fuel, we actually happen to have a mobile app solution for hotels called Guest Express, and we're seeing some really compelling data relating to this. I was actually talking to our analytics director today, and we have one property who has booked an additional $150,000 in revenue for the year via their app. So again, just something to consider when you're thinking about mobile is not just the mobile version of your website, but also if a mobile app solution might be right for you. So we've talked about these psychology hacks, you know, we've talked a little bit about the importance of mobile. How can you provide that frictionless booking experience? So your primary goals when you're doing your evaluation are to minimize the amount of total clicks it takes to book a room. And then you also want to really focus on designing forms that are both easy to use and intuitive. And ask yourself, is my site scary, easy to book with? This is something that I've actually said on our podcast a lot, is that Amazon is the prime example of, you go to that site and I'm like 2.5 clicks away from accidentally buying $100 worth of stuff I don't need, because it's that easy. So ask yourself, is it that easy for you to book on your hotel website? The first thing you're going to want to do is simplify your searches. So when you're evaluating your current software solution or looking at some options, here are some things that you can look for. Functionality to remember search dates. We know people are price shopping. They're going to do some searches. They'll probably leave the site, maybe go look at some reviews, do whatever they're going to do. If they come back to your site, go ahead and save them a step and remember those search dates. Showing availability calendars is another option. Again, this happens to be a screenshot from our booking engine solution, Guest Desk, and this is for a client in a repeat destination. So it really helps reduce some of that work during busy travel seasons, and we can go ahead and show, hey, for this room type, here's our availability. Saves them an extra step. You can also look at offering flexible search dates. This is particularly useful for leisure travelers or somewhere in a leisure destination where people tend to have a little bit more flexible search dates. Again, you're just saving them some work with returning searches that aren't available. They have to go back and search again. Go ahead and offer that. And then show available room alternatives. If you do happen to have a scenario where there's no availability, go ahead and give them some other options to work with. And then finally, foolproof your forms. So you want to collect as little form data as possible. You certainly want to work on building out your guest portfolios, but you can do that after you go ahead and get the booking. It's not the time to ask 20 questions. We want to go ahead and get as little information as possible so we can go ahead and get them in. And then make your forms intuitive. So in this example, this is Guest Desk, and we reconfigured our forms so that you can put in your postal code and then it automatically pulls in the city and state. Again, less information that they have to put in, the better. And then storing personal guest info. This might not be the right solution for every hotel, but if you happen to be in a repeat destination, or if you do happen to work with a group that has a loyalty program, go ahead and store that guest information. You know, I personally, whenever I book with Marriott or Hilton, I do find that convenience very easy. So it might be right for your hotel. finally, to end our adventure through the land of perfecting your booking experience, we wanted to briefly demonstrate what you're competing against. So not only have a lot of flag properties like the Hiltons and the Marriotts of the world integrated a lot of these concepts into their own booking experience, but online travel agents have really perfected this art. And Booking.com is often used as the classic example of a travel booking website that is doing it right. So we're going to look at some screenshots real quick that we pulled from this. So this is what you're competing against. This is all of the subtle callouts that they have. And this was just on 2 pages, the hotel search results page and the individual property page. So you can see a lot of the concepts that we just discussed are in action. You know, they've got social proof. They're talking about how many reviews they have. They've got scarcity, saying that there's a limited supply. They're calling out that urgency, telling you you need to book now, or you just missed it, sorry. They're anchoring the rates. They're using the colors to make things stand out in the strike-throughs. And they're using that assurance and risk mitigation to let you know, free cancellation, we price match, all these little messages that they have that are, again, just reinforcing to people that you're making the right decision, you need to book with us. This is what you're competing against, so you really need to be doing this on your end as an individual hotel. So to wrap up, 3 things that you can do today. It's not going to happen overnight, but just some takeaways for you. Take a look at your booking experience. Take a look at your booking engine on multiple devices, and then take a look at your competitive set and look at what can you do to make this better? What can you do to make this easier? Look at simplifying your search processes, look at optimizing your forms and your data collection, and then also look at some ways where you can integrate some of those psychology messaging into your booking engine throughout. So I know that was a lot of information. I hope some of that was useful. Definitely happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you so much, Misha. That was extremely informative. Definitely have seen a lot of those screenshots in my booking processes, and I definitely think that the psychology works on me too. So we had some great questions come through on that topic. If you do have more, go ahead and type them in. Again, we're just going to be making sure that we can get through all of the topics, and then we will answer those questions at the end. So thank you again to Misha. So next up, we have Angie, and she is going to talk about the revenue management perspective. And some of you may questioning kind of how those two relate, the topics of marketing and revenue management. But in the past couple of years, that definitely has become the popular duo. So Angie, I'll let you go ahead and take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Valerie. And you're absolutely right, especially, in the past, few years, I feel that, revenue management and marketing, we call it at Rainmaker the power couple. So, and that's just because, we believe that revenue managers are absolutely superheroes because they're understanding, how all the bookings are coming in through, all various channels, for the properties. But to be able then to optimize the marketing that's going out and that, the booking process and the booking experience and knowing, putting offers out in front of customers to be able to drive more offers that are direct, that are meaningful. Anyways, once they work hand in hand with each other, I mean, they really can be fierce. So that's why I like to think is, just because I come from the revenue management background, that they really are superheroes. But, our jobs as revenue managers have changed, pretty frequently in the last few years, and which has included, marketing. I've actually seen some organizations where the marketing departments will actually report through revenue management, which I think is a really interesting dynamic. So if we go ahead and we get started on the content. So I like this one, why everyone should love revenue management. I mean, if you think of a revenue manager, you think of that, little nerdy guy that might sit, in his office, doesn't get out much, but I don't think that that's what revenue managers do today. I really think that they need to be much more interactive. They have to understand all aspects of the property and how people are able to book. Just like Misha said, really understand what's going on, make the the booking process simple. I always tend to challenge the people that I work with to say, why don't you be a customer? Try to book on your own booking engine. Try to call your call center and understand what's happening there. But these are really the key reasons why I think that everybody should love revenue management is that they're the ones that hold the keys to the strategy for the property. They are the ones that know the numbers, that have the analytics, that are going to be able to really make or break the hotel. and that they're digging down into and really understanding each consumer's buying behaviors and knowing, what those individuals are going to be bringing to the table. And by understanding, we're going to talk a lot about, cost of acquisition, because there's a lot of different channels in which they can, in which they can book, and really understanding what the cost is to you is so important in our revenue management world. We've really moved away from, okay, let's, change some prices and yield, to, okay, well, let's really optimize the entire property, and really not just understanding what they're going to be providing in room rate, but if there's any ancillary spend what they're going to be doing here, and understanding the profit that comes from each one of those departments while they're here on property as well. So talking a little bit more about optimization, I talk a lot about this, I'm probably in front of, let's say, 3 to 10 properties a week. But really understanding optimization and getting away from, okay, I'm just yielding my hotel, of really looking to be able to drive, total revenue for the organization. But ultimately, the objective is to fill the property with the highest value, most profitable mix of business. And so that's really, drilling down and understanding exactly from a profit basis what each and every booking is going to give you from each channel. So, you have to be able to optimize your rates for each segment of business, and whether that would be like a published rate or something that would be closed. Building a database of patrons where you could go out to a closed offer is very, very valuable. In my past, it was probably one of my most valuable channels, and very inexpensive way to acquire that customer. And those are the customers that love your property and are loyal to you and will keep coming back. And so that's really really valuable. And they'll also provide all of that content that we were just talking about in the 2 presentations for you, all of that great content, and that's so important to for other customers looking to book your property that might not know much about you. And really being able to optimize your property, you have the confidence in the mix of business that's in the building, and you're easily able to identify areas of opportunity and concern well in advance. And so that's so important when we talk about our marketing efforts. You might have some need dates that are out there, and revenue management should absolutely be ahead of that. They should know, a year, months in advance of really what your need dates are going to be, and making sure that that all those departments can sell those rooms. They know what the dates are. They know what offers that they can go in order to really, start to enhance the bookings over certain periods. And then, which ultimately, you don't have to, at the last minute, scramble to fill those rooms. So there's 2 areas that I really think that, revenue management and marketing should be working on. Analytics, of course, is huge. Revenue management has it. There's lots of tools that, that our revenue managers can use, and we can talk a little bit about those, and we're going to talk about those today. But really, a successful revenue management organization comes down to a very precise forecast. And so that's really, in order to achieve that, you have to be able to understand the data that's being used in that forecast. So really dig down, understand, and this would absolutely include some of your, some of the reporting that you get from the marketing side. Understand, what channels are successful, what your spend would be, on certain areas, how your website is performing. So really drilling down into that information helps the forecast become much more powerful for the property. You have to know the movement in all segments. So if there's, if you have early cancellations, in a certain segment, make sure that you oversell in others. Really understanding the peaks and the valleys of each one. And that's really getting down to, which is my last one, bullet here, understand and track that customer buying behavior. A lot of times, in markets, we'll see that let's say, high demand event dates, you'll get people that will book several rooms around the city, and then they'll all end up canceling it and just taking the one where they find, the best deal. So that's absolutely something that, we've seen as a trend in the hospitality industry. And I think it's really important for an accurate forecast to get everyone involved. So that not just, revenue management and marketing, but really knowing, all of the players at the table. That would be your call center, your front office operations, food and beverage. I mean, really anybody that can learn from revenue management and the details that we're getting there should absolutely be part of your revenue strategy session, because we can all learn from each other and we can help each other. And so we're going to talk a little bit about those different ways that we can do that. So, so part of revenue management is really, we've talked about this, is really identifying those most profitable channels and customers. And then these are the different ways, that some of the different areas that you can, that if, you know, for being a marketing person, if you don't understand this, you know, we can really look, revenue management can help and provide tools in order to do this. So the behaviors, how do they book, when do they book, what promotions and offers do they respond to? There's really great reporting. I think I have a report after this that shows that. What do they spend while they're on property? You know, very, very important too. How long do they stay? So not just focusing on one night length of stay, but really starting to maximize that. You know, there's lots of efficiencies from an operations standpoint of really trying to drive longer lengths of stay. And are they repeat customers? We talked about that a little bit by having your own internal database to be able to, you know, call back on. You have those, you know, customers that you know will always come when you put a certain offer out. And then once you know this, you're once you have all of this information, and if that's not information that you have, you know, just alone in your marketing department, I would challenge you to, you know, really go and sit with your revenue management team. They absolutely have all of this information because it's something that they have to do in order to perfect that forecast. And so if you're not part of that strategic meeting that takes place with revenue management, I would say let's start to get you involved in those meetings. This is an analysis that I like to look at. It's just really, really, kind of general. You can see it's an old report from 2015, but it still, does us justice. So it's almost a PACE report of understanding, what you have on the books. So from a revenue, food, ancillary standpoint, the number of rooms sold, and then looking at, ADR as well. You're able then to flex that out of understanding what you have. There's also, great PACE reports that can look at, year over year, as well as you can see at the bottom, there's a channel aspect of this as well. And so really understanding what you're getting from each channel and then comparing that over time periods is one of the tools that revenue management looks at very, very often. So, as they're, making these tough decisions of, okay, well, where should we spend our money, and what, from a marketing effort standpoint, what should we be doing and going out there? This is one of the tools that they would absolutely look at. Also, really digging down and understanding your profitability. This is much more of a macro level. But understanding, and we also have some screenshots just like all the way down from like a P&L, a profit and loss statement that a hotel uses. And, I challenge revenue managers to really understand the bottom line and know all the expenses that go into, booking each one of these type of business. You can see down at the bottom left here, there's information like, complimentary, dues, memberships, commissions. I mean, commissions is huge. I mean, promotional items, really digging down. Also, credit card fees are huge. To be able to really dig down and understand from an EBITDA standpoint what each one of your offers and as well as channels. So even breaking it down further than this is contributing to this. So that's understanding your cost of acquisition for each one of your channels. So customer evaluation methods. This is one area that I think that we kind of miss the mark on a lot of times. A lot of times, when a hotel or a property, whether it's a loyalty club or even if it's a casino, will understand, okay, this is a patron of ours. This is a member of our loyalty club. But understanding what goes into that and how you're valuing those customers, a lot of times it's just a method of, okay, well, let's set it and forget it. I really think that being able to dig into that to really understand what those customers mean to you can be very, very valuable. Understanding all the different revenue sources and using your data to understand where you need to pinpoint your business and really to spend much more of your marketing efforts in order to drive over those need dates. Cost of acquisition, there it is again, because it's so important, obviously. And then really understanding those online marketing expenses of what goes into all those great optimization tools that, that we discussed in the two sessions that were prior to this, and what that costs our organization versus, mobile versus online, all of those different aspects as well. Then from an operations standpoint, so a lot of times, I'll give you an example of like a worst case scenario of what used to happen to me. So I used to work at a hotel here in Las Vegas. I live in Las Vegas. And I didn't just run revenue management, but I also ran the call center. And I would get a call of, from my manager on the call center, because I'd be in a meeting saying, oh my gosh, an online promotion just dropped and we didn't know about it. Well, okay, shame on me, and also shame on the marketing person for putting an offer out there and not telling us about it, because it was typically my team that needed to build that in the property management system and in all of the different systems and areas in order to effectively manage that promotion. I'm sure everybody's absolutely cringing on the phone, but I'll be the first one to admit I'm not perfect. And so really understanding, and a lot of times, working with revenue management as we were it was over a slow period, and so we really needed a spike in demand. But what was happening also is that I wasn't able to prep my operations team, and a lot of times your revenue management has constant interaction with the front office or call center, VIP, bell service, in order to to make sure that everybody is fully aware of what's going on. And so I highly recommend, don't be like me. This is probably 15 years ago. I'm dating myself here. But really make sure that you get revenue management involved before you send any offers out there. Checking to make sure that you come, that the pricing's in line, if it's going to be a static rate offer or if it's going to direct mail is still huge in some markets. I know that seems crazy as we're talking about online stuff, but if somebody sends a direct mailer out that has a static rate on that, I don't think that's an effective way to market, because obviously it's going to be yielded as demand builds. But really understanding, through them, what the pricing should look like, what to expect from a pricing standpoint over time as the offer's out there and it starts to, be out there for a while. The booking methods and then the patterns. Revenue management has a great way to be able to track how all of those bookings, you book through the system, where they booked, and all that information. And I highly recommend that you do a pro forma as well as post forma analytics, really understanding and drilling down into what's to be expected, as well as, looking to say, here's what we expected. Okay, did we miss the mark? It's your report card. Did we do a good job? And over time, you're just going to get better. And so that should absolutely be something that revenue management and marketing are working together by doing. And then making sure that you are scheduling, that you have, scheduling in the appropriate department. So making sure that everybody knows, I'll give another great example. When I was at the Hard Rock one December, they always expected to lay people off because it was so slow in Las Vegas. Well, I ran an offer through an OTA promotion, and I actually ended up filling the building, and I forecasted it and let everybody know while I was, in my staff meeting and my revenue management team meeting, hey, we're expected to be full. Let's not lay off, because we absolutely need these people in all these supporting departments. So part of the post-stay analysis, it's really to track all of that data from the lifetime of a booking. So, the profit that was produced, how much of a discount we provided off of the bar rate if there was a discount, understanding that, the cost of acquisition, there it is again, our ancillary revenue. So what did they do while they were on property? And having methods to be able to track that sometimes is absolutely a challenge, because, our customers don't, most of the time hotels have to be able to, they have to be able to charge back to the room. And a lot of times people just don't want to do that. They just want to give their credit card and be done with it. So really being able to track, have ways to be able to track that. And then obviously keep all of this information historically, because that's really going to help you as we're in budget season right now to be able to know what to expect for the future. It's not just going to be year-over-year trends. There's a lot of times you'll see, short-term spending trends as well. And then all of those different things that we were talking about, especially, understanding the booking patterns, that, your customer behaviors, cost of acquisition, that's all revenue management that can be applied to anything that's perishable. And you can apply this to any type of business or operational department within your organization. So if you perfect it on the room side, why don't you go and let's start talking to the restaurants. Let's start talking about menu engineering and, what their busy peak times are. Let's talk about the spa. So all of these different areas can absolutely help to be optimized. So here's my takeaways today. So I'm really saying use an enterprise marketing approach. So not just, working with marketing not just working with marketing, but really sitting down and understanding, what data is important to us, being able to drive that business in those profitable segments over the time periods that you need it. There's nothing worse than having, getting all of these bookings that aren't necessarily profitable, and we've spent a bunch of money in order to get it out there over the wrong time. So really working hand in hand, build that database. Our market is, we're just very cyclical in nature, and we're expecting another economic downturn. We keep hearing about it. We haven't seen it yet, but having a strong database will help you react, and your performance will be much better over those tough times versus the good. Have a plan established, so we just talked about that. Collect as much data as you can through all touch points, and track the profitability on all promotions, and please make sure you do those pro and post formas.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Angie, for all of that informative content. You bring a really great perspective to all revenue managers, and I think the marketers that work with them. So that was super helpful. So we will go ahead and take the questions that have been coming in. You still have time to type them into the question box on your GoToWebinar control panel if you see that over to the side. So please let us know if you have questions. But I'll go ahead and jump right to it because we had some questions during Misha's presentation. So for Misha, how do you recommend testing these principles or the site changes that you recommended to determine if they are good or not for the site visitors? So there's a lot that you recommended, but how can hoteliers kind of test if they're working or not?
Yeah, that's a great question. I know there was a lot of information there, and sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming to get started or kind of know if you're heading in the right direction. So before we even get started, my first recommendation would definitely be to speak with whomever your software provider might be about what options and functionalities actually exist. There's tons of providers out there, and they all offer different options and different levels of sophistication. So looking at what you're currently using and what options exist is certainly the first step. And then really asking, I would go to your software provider and say, what are your recommendations? Where should we start with this? And maybe what are some of the past successes you've seen with similar clients? And then always test one thing at a time. That's really important. You don't want to make 3 changes at once and then not understand, what changes, what impact those changes are having. So really focus on one thing at a time. And then also set realistic goals and understand your KPIs related to this. So an example off the top of my head, you might be looking at adding reviews to a rooms page, let's say, and your primary goal is to make more revenue. That's great, but really understanding, okay, what is a KPI associated with this? So you added these testimonials to your rooms page. Did your click-through rate from that rooms page into the booking engine go up? That, that's the type of stuff you want to be looking at. Of course, more revenue is great, but looking at each step in that process, because there's going to be several steps in your booking process. So having a good understanding of what your goal is with what you're testing and what KPIs are associated with it is probably the most important part. And then also just make sure that you are tracking everything correctly. We've definitely run into some issues with people that have come to us and their analytics is just wonky. It's either, the information isn't being passed correctly from the front end of the site into the booking engine, or attribution is off. So really making sure that your analytics is set up properly and that you can measure your changes is obviously something that you're going to want to establish prior to testing anything.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the detail in that response there. And then, Angie, I think the perfect question for you, especially since you actually have been a part of revenue management at a hotel, where do you see that revenue management typically reports in an organization? It seems as if they kind of need a big enough title to make the hard decisions on what strategies to partake in and pass on. Do you find that to be true?
Typically, yes and no. I mean, it really just depends on the organization. If they've, adopted revenue management principles, which they should have, because it obviously impacts, total profitability for the property. I think best case scenario is to report straight to the GM or the CEO or president of the property, just because they need to have that big enough title to, just like you said, to be able to say, okay, yes, this is what we're going to do. Let's say from a marketing effort, be able to impact pricing on the sales and marketing side, and really just, impact all strategy of the business. I don't believe that the right place for them to report to would be, let's say, front office, and especially not to the head of sales, because as they're making decisions, it's hard to be able to tell your boss, okay, that's not the right decision for you to make. Over my career, it seems like from a revenue management standpoint, we kind of bounce around. People don't really know what to do with us and I think it's just because all the information is so powerful and we can have such an impact in all the departments. So really reporting to the top is optimal where they should report.
Perfect, thank you. All right, and then I will go ahead and take one more question that we just got in. Misha, maybe you and I can kind of tag team this and I can start, but the question is, do you track performance of visual content? So how about a hotel with awesome pictures but bad reviews? Can this hotel perform well in that case based on your experience? So I'll say, first and foremost, I think what you would want to do is, of course, probably not draw attention to bad reviews. So in that case, I would recommend to a hotelier that, implementing a strategy to help improve your reviews would be definitely the way to go instead of actually putting them on your website first. So one of the best ways that you can do that is actually by collecting your own reviews. We actually saw with our own customers that for those of them that are collecting reviews, it actually accounts for almost 50% of their overall review content. And typically, if you're asking for the reviews, those scores are going to tend to be more positive. So it's a really easy way for you to implement, automatically sending them that survey, getting positive feedback, and then going ahead and putting that on your website. And then, Misha, I don't know if you have anything additional to say about, how we can test what kind of content, they should put forth and test to see what might work best for conversion.
Yeah, we've done a little bit of testing in this space, not necessarily on what images you're using, but in the video space, so where you're positioning room tours and how you're showcasing those. Obviously, we've seen a pretty strong correlation with the better that your photography is and the more information you're giving people, the better the results are. As far as the review scenario, it's definitely, we've worked with clients that don't have the best reviews in the world, and I agree that while you don't want to necessarily bring attention to that by having that on your site, I think it really opens up some other issues in that, people are going to find reviews. If they're not on your site, they're going to go looking for them. They're going to go to TripAdvisor. They might go to Booking.com, Expedia. Like, they are actively seeking reviews. So, rather than trying to, put lipstick on a pig and maybe not show it or put some on your site that might not match what's on other sites, I think it's really a conversation that you would need to have internally about what you need to do to fix whatever problem is causing those negative reviews, because it's not just going to get, better over time. It's not something that you can really hide from people. So you really need to get to the root of the problem and fix whatever's causing those bad reviews.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. So we're also getting some questions about can we recommend companies that can help with website development? Fuel is definitely that company for you. So so we'll definitely be reaching out to you, you folks that are talking about that. Yeah, all of the solutions that we have here, from website development to reviews to revenue management, can all be integrated into your hotel stack and again, help you achieve success. That's really what we are here to help inform you and want to help you in the future with. So I also got some questions about the presentation. We will have the slides available for download and a recording of today's webinar. So if you'd like to share it with any of your colleagues or review the slides or presentation again, that's all going to be made available. So you'll be getting that sent over via the email that you registered with at the latest by tomorrow, but hopefully later today. So I want to thank Misha and Angie so much for your time and for the great information that you shared. And to all of our attendees, I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Valerie.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.